Hi guys, I'm Jeff Brown. I'm a photography mentor and LinkedIn influencer. I help photographers build a premium brand and get more publicity online across LinkedIn and their website and social media.
Hello and welcome to Obehi Podcast. I'm your host, Obehi A14, and I strongly believe that everyone has a story to share. Now let's get started with this episode.
So I was born in Newcastle, so I'm from the northeast of England. My father was a lecturer, my mother was a teacher, but funny enough, I really struggled at school. School wasn't for me. Education system didn't work for me, and I later found out, because I was born in the 1970s, I later found out only just about 10 years ago that I was actually dyslexic, and that wasn't picked up when I was at school. So I struggled with education. I was more of a creative person, and the first business I ever had was at 16-year-old, and I had a fishing tackle business. I made fishing flies, and we had a mail order business, and that lasted for about 8 years. Then I went into the military, and I was in the Royal Navy and became a Royal Navy photographer, and I then went on to work with the intelligence services as an image analyst for the intelligence services, and then I left from there to start my own photography businesses in 2004. So I've always had that creative element. I've always on and off been self-employed, apart from that sort of 10-year gap when I was in military service.
Thank you so much for that, Jeff. Now, would you want to tell me how you got started in entrepreneurship? I mean, how did you get started be on your own?
It's funny, because I think I would struggle working for anybody else. I would struggle. I sort of like class myself as not employable. I don't think I could have a boss. I don't think I could get somebody telling me what to do, because I've been self-employed since the age of 16, on and off. But then that 10 years in the military had a structure and the military had a purpose. So I didn't mind being shouted at. I didn't being told what to do, because I saw there was a purpose behind that. I felt proud. I was proud to serve my country. They worked with some great people. Being a photographer in the military is a fantastic job as well. I liked health, I like fitness, I like sports, so that worked really well. But I don't think I could ever go out and work for a big corporation or a big company, do a 9 to 5, be stuck in an office and be told when I can have my lunch break and when I can do this, that, and the other. Yeah, it was brilliant. It was brilliant, and it's something that sticks with you for life, and you learn some valuable skills, discipline, timekeeping, attention to detail, stuff that really helps you in later life. What got me into photography was when I was young, when I was 14, 15, 16-year-old, one of the things I used to do, obviously having a fish and tackle business, I used to love to go out fishing. And one of the best times to catch fish is first thing on the morning, early sunrise, before anybody else is there. So I used to see these amazing sunrises and think, oh, I'd love to be able to capture that. I'd love to be able to take a picture of that. So I got myself a little instant camera, and that's effectively what got me into photography, was trying to take beautiful pictures of these sunrises. And then they never looked any good. They were actually terrible. They were nothing like what I saw. And I realized that I was very limited with these little instant cameras. And if I wanted to take better pictures, I needed to invest and get, at the time, an SLR film camera. So I had more control of the aperture and the shutter speed, and I could use interchangeable lenses, so I could get a true representation of what I saw when I was out there. Because I struggled so much with the educational side of things, and I was more of a creative person. I liked the idea of doing stuff for myself. I liked the idea of being self-employed. I found that really exciting. Luckily, I had the backing of my parents. My dad was a lecturer. My mum was a teacher. They did ideally want me to go into college and then on to university, but they realized that I was struggling and I couldn't do that.
We believe that everyone has a story to share. We believe in the power of storytelling in today's digital economy. Yes, we believe that our audience need to be touched at the level of emotion so we can better engage. What about you? Do you believe in storytelling as much as we do? Do you want to reach the hearts and minds of your audience? Then join us in our online training class. storytelling for content creators and digital entrepreneurs. Come to obehi1food.com/storytelling and learn how to leverage your storytelling skills so you can earn more as a content creator and digital entrepreneur. Storytelling is a powerful instrument at our disposal. Let's explore it together. See you in the class.
So they backed me 100% behind what I did. So at the age of 16, I applied for what was called at the time a Prince's Trust grant. So this was a grant set up by Prince Charles to encourage young people to find their own businesses, And I got a Prince's Trust grant. We got some money from the government. We set up our business. And then 6 months later, our first business premises, our mail order fishing tackle business, was inside what was called an enterprise centre, which was funded by quite a lot of big businesses like Vaux breweries and Whitbread breweries and Marks and Spencers, and also the Prince's Trust funded this complex as well. And 6 months after we'd been in there, Prince Charles actually came around to officially open the enterprise centre, which had about another 20 businesses in. And Marks and Spencers and Vaux breweries came to us and says, Jeff, we'd like to give a present to Prince Charles when he comes. Could you make him a box of fishing flies? So we created this box of fishing flies, salmon fishing flies, to present to Prince Charles. We didn't actually present them. One of the directors of the Enterprise Centre presented them to Prince Charles, but he obviously knew where he got them from. And then years later, well, about 6 months later, we got an order for a guy who sent us a fishing fly that he says, one of my fishing partners has been using this fly and he's had loads of success with it. And he told me where he got it from. And this guy up in Scotland had sent us this fly, and it was one of the flies, because we didn't sell this. This was one of my business partner's own bespoke designs. And this was one of the ones we presented to Prince Charles. So this guy ended up buying a load of them, and he was actually Prince Charles's fishing partner.
This is very important now. You are taking a lot of photographs, particularly taking some important personality, apart from the military, where you have to take some high-profile picture, but you're also taking pictures of the royal family, for a member of the royal family. And this is something that I found very fascinating about your job now.
Years later, I photographed quite numerous members of the royal family and met quite a few of the royal family in my position as a military photographer. In fact, my first ever job out on my own as a military photographer, once I'd passed through all my qualifications and I'd undergone a probation period of about 2 or 3 weeks with another photographer, my first real job was a royal job, and that was a photographer to Prince Philip for the annual Remembrance Parade in November, and that was up in Spainbridge in Scotland. So I was actually his personal photographer. I walked around with him during the parade, and funny enough, I made a mistake, and quite a few people have heard this story. I made a mistake that day. I was so excited. It was a lot of pressure. I'd been polishing my lenses and sorting everything ready for him arriving. And when he arrived, I grabbed the camera, started taking pictures and following him around. And I thought, God, I've taken hundreds of really good pictures here. And then it suddenly occurred to me when I said to myself, I've taken hundreds of pictures. I thought, well, how can I take hundreds of pictures when you only have 36 shots on a film? And I realized I hadn't actually put a film in the camera. So so I never made never made that mistake again. They say you learn by your mistakes. So and I think I got away with that. My boss didn't find out. I just managed to scrub over that part of the parade that I hadn't actually captured. One of the biggest things with as a military photographer is to be able to think on your feet. Is prior planning, getting as much idea as you can. So we would, we'd have maybe an admiral contact our headquarters and say, right, we need some photographs to make this particular ship. It might be an aircraft carrier. This aircraft carrier is sailing up this particular area, and it's doing a visit of this local city. We want it to look really good. How can we make that look good? How can you create images? So we would say back to the admiral, what do we have available? What sort of hardware? What can we have? And so we can let you have whatever you want. So we'll say, right, well, we might need 3 sort of like fast ribs with rib boats, rigid inflatable boats with Marines on, all camouflaged up, leaning over the end of the boat with their rifles. We need a couple of helicopters flying in formation behind those, and then the ship behind that. And then I need to be on a boat in front of the Marines so I can lean over and take pictures of them with a wide angle lens. So we have them, and then we have the helicopters in the air, then we have the ship, So you had a lot of stuff at your disposal, and it was an idea. You would recce the area where the pictures were going to be taken. So a lot of it was in the prior planning, the attention to detail, the ideas of how you're going to create this picture. And then once you had lots of stuff planned, it was a case of going away and putting everything into practice. Obviously, it didn't always fall into practice that nicely, but the planning reduced the amount of errors, and then it led to a little bit of once you're actually out there doing the job, then you have that creativity, and you can try some different things, But you did have a huge amount of kit at your disposal. Not everybody can say, right, I need 3 helicopters and get a helicopter. You had all this amazing photography kit. It was fun. It was a really enjoyable job. But when you think about the cost, how much did that job cost to actually create? It was a lot of money. So there was a lot of, we thought about it from that point of view, there was probably a lot of pressure on you to make a good job of it.
I can imagine that kind of pressure working in a situation like that. But can you tell me more about the military photography? I mean, how were you able to find your way around there and what you do and things like that?
Well, I think, there was a lot of, within the military training, there was a lot of, yes, you learned the camera elements, you learned the photography elements, but you also learned because you don't train to be a Navy photographer, you train to be a sailor first. Then after you've served some time in the military, then you can sideways apply to become a photographer. So you learn all your skills to be a soldier or a sailor or an airman first. Then once you've done that, then you go into specialize as a photographer. So I think a lot of it came down to the discipline, the planning, the attention to detail that really, really helped with you dealing with those situations. And then when you came to do your photography training course, which in my case was 6 months, a lot of it was around about planning, about working out how the shoot's going to be, looking at different angles, being able to think on your feet, being able to deal with problems. If a camera suddenly stops working, you always have backup kit, so you're minimizing the amount of stress that could be caused if you weren't prepared. And funny enough, my first job after I left the military in 2004, the first business I set up, and I had 5 photography businesses with my business partner, who was also a military photographer, ex-military photographer. The first business we had was wedding photography, and wedding photography overlaps nicely from military photography, because what do you need to be in as a wedding photographer? You need to be able to control people, direct people. You need to be precision with your timekeeping, because you only get one chance with a wedding. It's not like a portrait where you can say, oh, that didn't work, come back to the studio tomorrow. With wedding photography, you only get one shot. So a lot of our skills that we learned as military photographers, even though we've been photographing ships and people with guns and stuff like that, a lot of the actual planning and organizational skills transferred really well across into the wedding photography. We were just photographing different subjects. You join as a sailor, you become a Navy sailor, then you sideways apply to be a photographer, and then when you're accepted to the photography branch, it was only a small branch, you had to pass a load of exams. There's 26 different exams to pass in the 28-week period, and if you failed 3 of those exams, you were kicked off course. But when you did get through that training and you got your rank, you got a pay increase. So yeah, you had a higher rank and you had a pay increase. But once you were in that job as a photographer, you could be sent anywhere to do any job that was required. And then we were also required to do our intelligence qualification, our intelligence course, which was a year. So we could go and work with the intelligence services if we were required to be image analysts, which I ended up doing for 2 years, because there was all different elements. So we had to do photography in people photography in interiors photography, sport photography, because you think as a military photographer, we photographed everything from royal visits to criminal injuries. If a couple of sailors had been fighting, We did big events and parades. We did detail photographs, macro photographs, close-up photographs of engine damage and wing damage to planes and helicopters. So lots and lots of different niches and different genres of photography were encompassed as a military photographer. We also did studio portraiture. So we would do photographs of admirals and captains in their uniform against studio backgrounds. So there was lots of different types. We didn't just take military type pictures, we took lots of different types of images. To work as an image analyst, you need sort of like an eye for detail, an eye for imagery. And obviously the military deemed that anybody who was a photographer were good at analysing images and trying to decipher critical intelligence information from a particular image. A lot of those images would be reconnaissance photographs taken by, say, helicopters or aircraft, drone and satellite imagery. So loads of different types of imagery. Sometimes the imagery was really, really poor quality, and you literally spend hours with magnifying glasses going over the images, zooming into the images on computers, trying to identify the grains and the pixels and make out what it actually was.
That's very interesting. So you're working with photography, picture that maybe might have been taken in different location, or maybe with different technology. You are going to have to interpret them and try to find the detail and what they represent. I think this is really an interesting part of the kind of work that you do.
Yeah, it was basically all digital, so the tools were built into the computer. You could measure pixels within relationship to the satellite or the drone imagery, and that would give you, if you measured a particular strip, it would give you that as a rough size. So it's these pixels would add up to, on that image, might be 15 foot long. So then you can say, oh, hang on a minute, does that fall into the same length of this particular type of tank, because from above that looks very similar to that particular. So you could identify, even if it was a grainy image, you could roughly identify, say, yeah, I believe these are these particular type of tanks, and there's 15 of them lined up here next to this building that is probably this. So it was a lot of it was probable and possible. It was, it was sometimes, but it was being able to gain as much information back as possible from those images. Quite often, especially if it is aerial imagery, it's taken from a completely different viewpoint. So something that the human eye is not used to seeing. So we've been trained for nearly a year in looking at images from a different viewpoint, because yes, you might be able to, you could tell like a Jaguar car from the front, but could you tell a Jaguar car from an overhead picture against the BMW car, right? So we were trained to look at different articles of military hardware and installations and be able to identify them by the shapes and the shadows and their layouts from an overhead perspective, because looking at them from a front-on perspective is quite easy. This was the military school of photography, so this was done in a particular a special military school for photography. Then we went to an military intelligence school. It was a high security base. It was above the levels of top secret. It was what was learned within that was behind sort of closed doors. You couldn't just do a course on it.
Now, I want to believe that because you have been in the military, you have undergone the training, the discipline and all of that, that maybe this can actually be contributing to the kind of work that you do today, the kind of business that you set up today around photography.
So within the military element, I think the discipline and the timekeeping is one of the big things that an organization, planning stuff out. I am very meticulous. I've always been very tidy, very OCD, and that was only amplified even more by the military. So those are some of the biggest factors that's gone on to help me be successful in my business, but also help me with training for other people. And I've written a couple of books, 2 books now. I'm onto my 3rd book, but my 2nd book was called The Ambitious Photographer's Journal, and it's basically a goal setting and motivational journal for photographers, and it takes them through a daily, weekly, monthly, yearly practice of setting their goals, breaking their goals down, analysing their goals, and then doing something every single day towards the bigger picture, taking that step towards the bigger picture. So ultimately, I work with photographers because obviously that's my background, but what I do will work for any business. And it's broken down into a series of six steps. I call it the 6 steps to success. And it starts, well, one of the first steps before we start the program is goal setting and time management. So I work with people on their goal setting and their time management. So when I can see where they want to go, then we can plan a route out for their business. But then the next most important step is brand. And this is a lot of people forget about this, because brand is probably one of the most important parts of your business. People think brand is just your logo, but brand isn't your logo. Logo is one tiny aspect of brand. Brand is everything your customers think, feel, and believe about your business. And if you want to charge a lot of money for your services, you need to have what's called a high perceived value. So people can only get a high perceived value if you look premium, if they believe in what you do. And that comes down to your brand. So if you think about any premium brand in the world, whether it be BMW, Ralph Lauren, Jimmy Choo, Tiffany's, Marriott, Hilton, they all have a perceived value, and they all have a brand that represents first-class service, and people buy into that. So a Ford car and a BMW, effectively, when you look at what you get on both cars, there's probably no difference whatsoever. In fact, sometimes the cheaper car has a lot more kit and features than the premium car, but people buy into the premium brand because they believe in it. And that has a lot to do with what people think, feel, and believe. And their belief gives them a higher perceived value of what that product is actually worth. So I'm currently wearing a Ralph Lauren t-shirt, polo shirt. You can buy polo shirts probably identical to this for 10, 15, 20 pounds, but a Ralph Lauren one is 100 pounds. But it's the brand that justifies them allowing them to charge that price tag. And if you think about it, and this is something a lot of entrepreneurs and business owners struggle with, is they worry about price. They worry about charging a premium price. People won't pay it. People only buy on price. They don't. Because if people only bought on price alone, there would be no such thing as BMW, Jaguar, Tiffany's, Jimmy Choo, Harrods, Marriott, Hilton. None of these brands would exist, and everyone would just go for the cheapest thing. But people don't do that. Think about yourself, what clothes you wear, what shoes you wear, what hotels, what car you go to, type of restaurants. It's the brand and the feel. It's the colors, the fonts, and the message. And all of that allows you to charge a lot more money. So that is one of the big things I do within my program first, before we even look at websites or social media, is create a premium brand. And then we do the next bit, which is desire, which is the written word. And it's the wording that helps sell the benefits and sell the solutions to the client. So the wording is really important, the types of words that you use in your brochures and on your website, that creates desire, excites people, and gets them to take action and press that book now button or inquire button.
All right. Talking about photography, are there ways that one can actually, are there strategies that one can actually adopt in creating successful photography brand?
A couple of ways to create a really successful brand is, first of all, don't try to please everybody. So and this is what a lot of photographers do. A lot of my photographers, they want to do everything. They want to do headshot photography, wedding photography, commercial photography. They're frightened to turn down work. Now, there's no saying, if you try to appeal to everybody, you become special to nobody. So the first thing in creating a premium brand is to niche, to specialize, because people now like to work with specialists in particular areas, specialists in this. There's so many different coaches and gurus and mentors around now. You can have a life coach, you can have a breathing coach, you can have a fitness coach, a nutrition coach, all for different areas of life, all for different areas of business. So yes, first thing is specialize and niche down, and then don't sell your products and services, sell what the solution is to the client. Find out who your ideal client type is and sell what they really want. So in my case, I'll give you a really good example. So I work with quite a lot of food and hospitality photographers. So we've niched them down from general photographers to photographers who work for hotels, restaurants, pubs, places like that, and they take amazing pictures of food, but they don't sell food pictures to their clients. What they sell is what the client really wants. They sell full restaurants every night of the week. They sell money in the till. They sell more engagement on their social media. They sell photographs that people can virtually taste and smell through their news feeds. They look that good. They say when you buy these images, your restaurant will be full. You'll get more likes, you'll get more followers, you'll get more comments, which will ultimately lead to more money in the till. So they don't just try and sell, oh, do you want to buy some pictures? No, I can take some pictures myself on my phone. No, but you can't take pictures like this. You can't take pictures that are going to make your when you put them online, people's tummies start to rumble. People start drooling and tagging their friends in, going, oh my God, we've got to go here. So think about what your ideal client ultimately wants. A restaurant just doesn't want pictures. A restaurant wants a busy restaurant every night of the week. It wants lots of happy diners, bums on seats and money on the till. So look at the end result and sell the end result to the client. So niche down and sell the end result to the client, and then create a brand that is based all around your client and the end result.
I like that. Based around your client and the end result. All right. You also did make mention of perceived value when you were explaining before. Now, do you want to say anything about that? What could it mean for people who maybe do not even understand what is meant by perceived value? Please say something about that.
So perceived value is how much. So in order to understand perceived value, you have to first understand what price is. So price, what is price? Price is what we believe, and this is different for every single person in the world. So your perceived value of an object might be completely different than my perceived value. So price is what we are happy to part with as an individual in a fair exchange for a product or service. Now, I don't watch much TV. In fact, I probably watch TV twice a month. So if I saw the latest, 60, 70 inch big Sony TV and somebody says to me, you can have that, Jeff, for £400 and it's actually worth £2,000, that has no value to me, because the perceived value of that is very small because I don't have a priority with TV, right? But if you offered me something different, something I was really interested in, then I might have a higher perceived value in that product or service. So what you got to think about is, first of all, find out what you sell your products and services to people who really want your products and services, and then create a higher perceived value. And that has all down to your level of service, what they believe they will receive from it, the way it looks, the way it feels. And this comes down to fonts, colors, wording on the website. If you walk past a restaurant in a town that you've never ever been to before.
To be a great content creator in today's fast changing economy, you need one thing: storytelling. Storytelling is a powerful instrument to leverage either for personal use or for your business success. This is why this training class, Storytelling for Content Creator and Digital Entrepreneurs, was created. It is designed to help you leverage the power of storytelling so you can stand out from the crowd and earn more in your business. Come to obehi.com/storytelling and learn how to leverage your storytelling skill to earn more as a content creator and digital entrepreneur. You need the power of storytelling to stand out in the competition. So let's explore it together. See you in the class.
And you're walking past with your partner and you go past this restaurant. It has beautiful hanging baskets with loads of flowers, and the writing on the signage is really, really nice. And, it all looks beautiful from outside. And then you look at the menu and it says created using only the freshest local ingredients, and it has really descriptive menus. So instead of saying fish and chips, it says hand caught, sustainably farmed, whatever, fish in a light beer batter with triple cooked chunky chips. So it's a really desirable created menu. Then you start to get excited about it. If you went past the same restaurant and the hanging baskets were full of weeds, the signage was coming down, the fonts and stuff didn't look good, but it was still selling the same food, your perceived value from the outside is going to be a lot lower. You're going to say, oh, I'm not going to spend £5 in there. It doesn't look very good. So the perceived value starts from the outside. And as business owners, if we don't have restaurants, our perceived value starts with our brochures and with our websites, the way it looks when people land on our homepage, the level of service we give, how we answer and respond to an email. If somebody asks for a price list, do we send them over a Word document with some typed up figures? Or do we do a really nice quote complete in a PDF brochure complete with images and, all branded to our colors? Because if we send that out, that gives us a higher perceived value, because people think, oh, wow, it's all about at every stage of the customer interaction, making them believe they're getting more. The value of what we're getting is higher. And what you got to remember is with premium brands or premium, anything premium, a higher quality, a higher price often dictates or is presumed that it's going to have a higher quality. So high price and high quality go hand in hand. So sometimes cheap can actually be expensive, or cheap can be worthless, or because cheap can sometimes be associated with inferior workmanship, poor quality, less durability. It's not going to last as long. Where premium can actually be, you buy premium, you buy once, you don't have to replace it. It's going to last you a lifetime. You get better level of service. So don't be afraid to charge more, but as long as your brand and your message and your perceived value matches, or your perceived value is higher than the price tag that you have on your product.
All right, thank you so much for that. Now, I'm looking at a beginner photographer, a young person who could be maybe in UK or in London or in another part of the world, actually, that they try to stand out in photography, but also want to brand his or herself in a way that he can actually do a professional photography. Where would this person start from in learning how to actually stand out from the crowd? Maybe that is something you want to suggest in those lines.
I wouldn't say you don't need that. There's a lot of companies who have already done, in fact, there's millions of companies who've already done all the hard work for you. So quite often it's about not looking at your competitors. So like I say to photographers, don't look at other photographers. If you're, say for instance, if you're a wedding photographer, don't go looking at other wedding photographers. Look at the high-end premium bridal shops. Look at the dream wedding venues. Look at some of the world-class wedding coordinators or wedding planners. Now look at their websites, their fonts, their colors, their message, because they've already done, these high premium wedding venues or the top wedding magazines or the top bridal shops. They've spent thousands, if not tens of thousands, creating a brand that is directed towards their ideal client type. And their ideal client type is potentially your ideal client type as well. So don't try and reinvent the wheel. If somebody's already done the hard work for you in the colors, the fonts, the message, the feel, then why not use that for inspiration to replicate your own brand yourself? Even all the big brands in the world, they spend millions of pounds on marketing. Look in a particular font. I have a couple of photographers who started working with last week, and their ideal clients were a particular client type. And this is right, I'm picking Tiffany's blue to go in my website because I really like that, and that works well with my brand and my clientele, 80-90% female in that particular earning bracket. And the font I really like to utilize within my wording is the same font that Burberry use within their website fonts. Remember, these brands have all done loads of research into these colors and fonts and stuff. And if you think about it, we are all brand experts, but we don't know it, because ever since we were kids, ever since we were little boys and girls, we've been directed to particular types of brands. We fell in love with particular types of trainers and particular types of tech and cars and bikes and TVs and stuff like that. So we've been branded to ever since we were kids. We know, we can look at a font and instantly tell whether that font is a premium or it looks cheap. So if you have a font that is meant for maybe a kindergarten or a nursery and it looks childish and it's brightly colored and it has multicolors, and you stick that on a business that does professional business coaching, straight away the feel of that brand is going to reduce. It's going to look childish. It's going to look cheap because you associate that with something to do with kids. If I was to hold a red sign up with stop in a bold, strong font, you would know that was an order. If I was to show you another sign that was black and yellow, you would with hazard on, you would think, hang on, caution. So there's certain colors, there's certain fonts, there's certain ways that words and letters are laid out that we presume with different things. Like if you look at it here in the UK, every single supermarket in the UK has what's called a taste the difference or a best of or luxury range brand. So these are usually the items at the end of the food aisles that, say for instance, you have a lasagna or a trifle, right? You've got the standard lasagna or the standard trifle or the standard cheesecake. Then you've got the taste the difference luxury cheesecake. And it's a little bit bigger. It's a little bit deeper, this cheesecake. It has some nice little pretty chocolate swirls on the top. But the box might be a black box with gold calligraphy type writing or silver platinum writing. And it'll say deluxe handmade bespoke cheesecake. Now, if you do some research on this, and I did some research on this, that a lot of these end aisle products in supermarkets are their most profitable. The premium range are their most profitable. And the premium range is usually made from their standard range, but made a little bit bigger with some little swirls on the top. But what makes them sell is the packaging that they're put into. And if you look at all these best of ranges, what do they use? They all use one of the premium colors within their packaging, which is either platinum, silver, gold, or purples, because those platinums, the silvers, the golds, and the purples have always been associated throughout history with wealth and with royalty. So we look at those colors and we get a feeling straight away from that, and that helps increase that perceived value. And then we pick it up and go, ooh, this looks like a treat. I'm going to have this tonight. I'm going to pay double the price for a cheesecake, which is just in a fancy box. But we don't look at it from a marketing perspective. But so we can look at lots of other businesses and identify straight away what is premium or what looks cheap just by its outside packaging or by its message. But sometimes we fail to do it to our own business. We fail to step outside our own business and look back in and think, what sort of perceived value am I giving out from my brand? When you start looking at that, you can see, every day we're being marketed to from multiple angles, from when we're just walking along the road to when we pick up our mobile phones. We've been branded to, and we straight away have instant triggers that alert us to something that is premium or something that looks cheap. And if we go to a shop, and we go to a nice little boutique shop, and the packaging is nice on these lovely handmade candles, and the wording, it looks like the hand scripted, and and it smells nice, and the customer service is brilliant. We will pay 3-4 times the price than the same candle we can buy in a supermarket for a quarter of the price. The products, but yeah, it's and I do this all the time, and I see myself walking out of a shop and go, yeah, but this candle's not worth £40. It's probably worth £10. But people like to buy things that they have a high perceived value in because it feels like a treat. Photographers, so it's mainly photographers I work with, and I work with photographers now in about 20 different countries around the world. But they're all different types of photographers. So I have wedding photographers, portrait, branding, food photographers, sports photographers, and people at different stages of their journey. So people who maybe aren't a photographer at the moment, they work in a marketing business and they absolutely hate their job, or recently had a policeman join who wanted to leave the police service to become a fireman, to become a photographer. I had a fireman who wanted to leave the fire service to become a photographer. So I'm either working with photographers who've maybe been in their business a while or just starting out, or people who want to become a photographer. And yes, they're great at taking pictures. That's the one thing I don't teach them. I'm teaching them the business elements of being a photographer.
Now, there is another important thing I would like you to spend some time explaining, which is about the money. Because you are in business so that you can make money. And as a photographer, you are going to be taking photo for other people. Otherwise, you are just doing it for passion. So tell me more about that. What would you say about marketing of photography business?
The marketing of being a photographer, well, a lot of it comes down to visibility. So one of the big things now, is visibility is credibility. So the more visible you are on social media, the more visible you are anywhere, the more authority and the more credibility you get. So the more visible you are, the more credibility you get. The more credibility, the more authority you have. And the more authority you have, the more opportunity comes your way. But visibility is really important because you want to be visible for the right reasons. One of the worst ways to be visible is to be salesy, to be promotional and trying to spam all the time. So if you look at my social media content, I have across my social media, I probably have over 100,000 followers now. I post regularly to LinkedIn. I've got over 40,000 followers on LinkedIn, but you will rarely see me do a sales post on LinkedIn. Or my majority of my LinkedIn posts are top tips, advice, inspirational, motivational posts. So I don't try to sell to people. I just give, provide. Then I look at other people who already serve who my ideal clients are, which are photographers. And then I approach them and say, can I give to you to give to your followers? So I do guest appearances on photography podcasts. I write for 3 photography magazines. I do webinars. I've got one on Friday and I've got 2 next week. I'm doing a couple of in-person speaking events. But every time I appear on these webinars and I write for these magazines, I give value and help my community. So I don't try and sell. And by doing that, the followers come and the inquiries come. So, I just had somebody join my program today and I didn't do any selling. He basically just says, Jeff, I love what you do. I've been following you for a while. I've read one of your books. I've seen you here, and here. Can I join your program?
Okay, now, Jeff, I know you do a lot of work within the area of mentorship for photographers who want to become better in their work. Do you want to spend some time explaining what exactly you do there? Help us understand a bit of your mentorship.
In what I do in mentoring, I love to see people succeed. And the thing with mentoring is the people who come on board my program, you remember these people are on my program for a long time. And even once they've been through my program, they're still connected with me. They're still within my private group. These people become friends. And nothing satisfies me more than, one of my mentees get in touch with you and say, Jeff, you won't believe it. I put that quote in you told us to put in, and they accepted it straight away. You won't believe this, Jeff. I've been asked to do this job for this particular company, or I'm doing a shoot for this particular company. When everything starts coming together and they start making the money that they dreamed of, and it gives them self-confidence and belief in themselves, it's phenomenal. And funny enough, you talk about the money thing. I had 5 very successful photography businesses. We made a lot of money from that. Then I actually went through a journey where I had those 5 really successful businesses. I invested in another business, which I saw huge potential, and that went wrong. And that went totally wrong. And I lost over £160,000 in that business, and it caused me to suffer severely from depression. I tried to take my own life. I tried to drive my car off a bridge. I ended up getting divorced in the same small time frame, and that changed my life completely. This was 7 years ago. And then I decided I don't want loads of staff. I don't want to be busy with everything. I wanted to create a new business, which was the mentoring business, and it's a lifestyle business. So I do very well with my business, but I don't want loads of employees. It's just me. And it is set on my terms. I have a call booking link, clients booking with me and book the calls, and we do our calls. It's a new sort of direction for my life. I don't want to be a multimillionaire. I don't want hundreds of people working for me. I want the satisfaction to run my life the way I want it, make a good income, and see other people succeed, because that gives me a real buzz. I love the opportunity to go speaking around the world and speak to and be a bit of an ambassador for the photography industry, because I'm a photographer myself. So I know. The thing is, a majority of my clients are much better photographers than me. There's some real talented photographers out there who I work with. And it's not their photography that's letting them down from making the money that they want to make. It's their branding and their marketing. You can be the best photographer in the world, but if your brand doesn't look premium, and if you're not marketing in the right way, then people don't know you exist. And if they do know you exist, they don't have the value or perceived value in you if your brand's not there. And sometimes I feel, when I first left the military, I felt a little bit of a fraud because we were doing better than a lot of the photographers in our local area because we had the brand and the message right first. Some of these people have been going for years, and we came along and we sort of, cleared up the wedding market in a very short space of time, pretty much, because we invested a lot of money in branding and learning about branding and marketing. We spent maybe 15,000 in the first year just on branding courses because the military funds you a bit when you come out. You get money to be a civilian. So I spent my £7,500 of military learning grant on branding and marketing. Then my business partner had £7,500 and we spent his money on branding and marketing because we knew that was going to enable us to charge what we wanted to charge.
All right, thank you so much for that. Now, how can people connect with you, those who want to do business with you? Because we're also here in this podcast to connect with people who want to do business, who want to connect with other people so they can do business. So share with them how they can connect with you.
One of the best ways to connect with me, where I'm most active, is LinkedIn. So just go to LinkedIn and search for Jeff Brown, the photographer's mentor. You can also contact me on Facebook through just my own personal Facebook page, which is Jeff Brown, the photographer's mentor. You can also visit my website, which is www.thephotographersmentor.com. And if you are a photographer, if you head over to that website, we have some free resources on the website. So there's lots of podcasts, there's some brochures you can download, top tips and advice. And there's also a great blog as well called the Go-To Photographers blog. And every month I create 2 new blogs on different topics. In the next 2 or 3 months, I'm going to be talking a lot about websites because I've got a new business which I'm creating, which is going live on around the 15th, 20th of October, which is going to be a website business for photographers. And my next book is all about creating the perfect website, perfect photography website.
All right, great. Now, what would be your final thought here, considering what we have discussed today? It can be maybe a small message to reach out to people. Please go ahead and do that.
I think, one of the big things I say is, set goals, set yourself some goals, look at where you want your business to go, set some goals and set big. Because if you set a big goal, even if you don't reach it, if that's a big goal and you get halfway towards it, then you've still achieved something really, really impressive than if you'd set a really average goal. Nobody wants to be average. You want to be awesome. You want to be amazing. But what you want to do is when you set these goals, make sure you do something every single day. I have a large following on LinkedIn. I didn't get that overnight. It's took me about 4 or 5 years to get that following. But all it is connecting with 25 people every single day, and that is snowballed, that's mounted up. I reach out for opportunity. So there's so much opportunity around us. We could speak on any podcast we want. We can write for any magazine. We can guest on different shows. We can do whatever we want. We can partner with different businesses. But we can't do any of that if we don't ask. And the worst anyone can say is no. But when you come from a place of value and you say to people, this is what I can do for you, this is what I can do for your listeners, this is the value I can give, then most people will turn around and say, okay, let's have a talk. Let's see what we can do together.
Thank you so much, Jeff. I really appreciate the time that you spend here explaining your photography and tactics, strategy, and a way to succeed as a photographer today. I really do appreciate your time. If you enjoyed this podcast, make sure you subscribe so you never miss any of our future episodes. Rate and review Obehi Podcast and share with your friends who might need it. I remain Obehi Ewafo. Thank you so much for listening and talk to you in the next episode.